Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Alex Flood. Youth between the ages of 15 and 25 will once again have a chance to work directly with MP and newly announced Minister of Indigenous Services Patty Hajdu on issues affecting the country as a whole. The 7th annual Thunder Bay Superior North Youth Council applications have officially opened, as youth interested can apply up until November 23rd. Chosen applicants will not only get to work directly with Member of Parliament for the region Patty Hajdu, but also meet for approximately 15 to 25 in-person and online discussions on local and national issues. Hannah Caruana was previously involved as a youth in the council, and Hajdu says the Youth Council is always an amazing chance for the youth to get involved on important topics in the country.
Oftentimes they are issues that are very relevant to the country. So for example, climate change, climate resiliency, issues around equity and fairness and racism, things that really matter to young people but also matter to the country. So it's really, really helpful to me. I can represent the young voices from my riding so much better if I'm hearing directly from them.
Being able to sit together and collaborate on solutions, because although we're the youth today, we are the future tomorrow, and making for sure that our voices are heard and our minister is sitting alongside us was really impactful and important to youth today.
Residents from Thunder Bay Superior North can apply now by visiting the website and filling out the application. A public art mural was revealed at a community event on Wednesday, led by the Youth in Solidarity Against Racism and Hate Project on Cook Street, after being put together for most of the summer. Mitchell Ringos has the details.
The project is the culmination of the work accomplished in the first year of a 2-year project funded through the Ministry of the Solicitor General. The launch event featured many partners who spoke about the new mural and the impact it will make in the downtown North Core. Solidarity Collective Coordinator J.L. Chung says this project aims to promote young artists in an art piece that has a deep meaning to Thunder Bay.
Youth want these opportunities, safer spaces to connect with each other, opportunities to create and express themselves through art. Art brings people together. Art inspires change.
The mural located on Cook Street is a youth-led and developed project that has the goal of strengthening their collective voice to challenge racism, discrimination, and hate. The group of artists spent most of the summer finishing their art pieces to complete the massive mural, brightening up the downtown core. We spoke to some of the artists about the mural and what it means to them to take part in such a meaningful project.
Being young and being, in the BIPOC community, it's important for us to come together and create these conversations and talk about, things that are happening with our community.
Well, it just brought young people together and brought us out of our homes in the time when we were completely trapped for months, years. And it just allowed us to express ourselves and what we were feeling through that whole period.
My piece is celebrating individuality with Indigenous youth, and it was really an honor to work on it alongside a bunch of amazing artists.
I have a saying above the piece that says community over commodity. We're in the downtown district, and we have people that are around every day in these streets, and as we're moving forward into new business ventures and whatnot downtown, we can't forget that this is people's homes.
Sageduin in Anishinaabe means mutual love, and so I just want to express my love to this community and especially to my Indigenous brothers and sisters.
And in addition to the launch of the Youth in Solidarity Against Racism and Hate public art mural, Good & Co Market also opened their new Collab art exhibition, which will showcase Petrichor, a new Solidarity Collective inaugural exhibition. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.
With approval of vaccinations for kids aged 5 to 11 soon coming, the district's medical officer of health says their clinics might soon be busy immunizing young children and also administering booster shots. Dr. Janet DeMille expects third dose eligibility to open to all adults in January, and youth clinics could be close behind. So far, Pfizer and Moderna have both been approved for booster shots, with only Pfizer submitting their vaccine for the 5 to 11 age group. DeMille says when they are allowed to immunize kids, it will impact the number of appointments for those seeking booster shots.
Encouraging people who are eligible to get into our clinic early, sort of even this week or next if they're eligible, so that because the number of appointments we'll be able to provide for boosters will be less.
Canada's top doctor expects the Pfizer vaccine to be approved for children by the end of November. The Ontario government's choice to not further challenge a Court of Appeal decision on the Student Choice Initiative is a relief, according to the president of the Lakehead University Student Union. The recent directive to halt the initiative means students will no longer be able to opt out of paying union fees. LUSU President Lahama Naeem says the opt-out plan limited the services they could offer, such as the study coffee house, bursaries, and student-run clubs. Impacts this year were minor, as they had budgeted for a situation like this, but the longer it went on, more cuts would have been necessary.
We were forced to, not perhaps give out the same amount of funding that we would have in usual years. We continued to try and support our clubs as best as we could, but I think that with not having that stress on our shoulders anymore, it's nice to know that student clubs are going to be able to go back to functioning the way they did before. And in the long run, I think student life is a big piece of being a university student, and I think the Student Choice Initiative really would have hurt that.
Naeem calls it a weight off their shoulders after an already stressful pandemic put the pressure on students and LUSU. Shop and Vax is back in Toronto as the city continues its efforts to get COVID-19 vaccine doses into the arms of eligible residents. This 4-day campaign is taking place at dozens of malls and neighborhood clinics across the provincial capital until Sunday.
It's an open-door policy at this vaccination clinic at Stockyards Village Shopping Centre in the Junction, one of 15 Shop and Vax locations across the city this weekend.
We're down to that stage of the campaign now where we're doing it 1 by 1, 10 by 10, 100 by 100, but it's making a difference.
According to Mayor John Tory, Toronto needs 57,000 more people to get their first shot to hit the 90% mark in the city. And 150,000 people have to get their second shot to reach 90% of Torontonians fully vaccinated.
And then the lead up to the December holidays with Hanukkah and Christmas, we're going to see a lot more of these clinics in malls.
263 people are in Ontario hospitals with COVID today, 56 more than yesterday. 131 of them are in intensive care, one more than the day before.
Whereas in December of last year, it was extremely uncommon for me to see someone in the 30s and 40s. Now it's much less common. It's in part because of vaccination rates in those particular age groups.
And with winter approaching, health officials are keeping a close eye on the data locally and abroad.
Other parts of the world which are highly vaccinated, like Germany and the Netherlands, are setting records for their number of cases this week over the entire pandemic. So it can happen there. It can definitely happen here.
Signs the pandemic isn't over yet.
A report by the Integrity Commissioner for Marathon has found that an angry home visit by Mayor Rick Dumas violated the municipality's code of conduct. Dumas went to a local residence to speak to a homeowner regarding a post on social media where the poster suggested the town's belated lowering of the Ontario flag following the discovery of hundreds of graves at former residential schools was an expression of racism. The report states while speaking with the individual, Dumas raised his voice to the point that he was considered yelling by a neighbor, which violated the section of the code that requires elected officials to behave professionally with constituents. Dumas says he is proud of the work the township has done to improve relations with area First Nations and can get passionate about topics he cares about, but he accepts the findings of the report.
He elevated in my voice. I didn't deny that in any means. And I felt that I was doing the right thing to protect the community's integrity. But at this case, as the commissioner stated, we must hold ourselves to a higher esteem than the constituents we represent. So in that being said, that's where the guilt comes from my behavior through the code of conduct. And I accepted the report, and I thanked the commissioner.
Council had the option of penalizing Dumas, but instead chose to endorse the recommendation in the report that the mayor and all members of council undergo training and ethical behavior and the code of conduct. The report also rejected the allegation that the mayor, quote, engaged in a systemically racist way by failing to lower the provincial flag. The 15th annual Coats for Kids distribution is once again back in the Victoriaville Mall at the perfect time, as winter is fast approaching and staying warm is essential. The annual Coats for Kids event run by the OECTA Elementary Unit, the Thunder Bay Catholic District School Board, and the Catholic Principals Council of Thunder Bay started collecting winter wear at schools in October, where they were overjoyed with the amount of donations provided. The donated jackets, hats, and mitts were cleaned and then transported to the Victoriaville Mall, where they were then put on racks and ready to go for opening day. OECTA Human Rights Committee co-chair Sarah Pulowski says that not everyone can afford winter clothes, especially during the pandemic, so having this annual service is vital.
Really important for people in Thunder Bay to know that we are all together in this pandemic, and that people with need can come and pick up a coat and pick up some outerwear and just have a little chat. It's really nice to have a connection with the people who come and take the coats that have been donated.
Opening day ran from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon and will run from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. through November 15th to the 20th. Coats for Kids, a great campaign here in Thunder Bay, joined with Kurt Black. Kurt, a couple great campaigns we saw this weekend as well in Lakehead basketball action.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. You know, the Thunderdome, it was rocking last night as both the men's and women's basketball team returned home for the first time in nearly 2 years. But was it a triumphant return? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome back. Well, Kurt, the men's and women's basketball teams were in action at Lakehead this weekend, and it was a pair of pretty good matches, I'd say.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. You know, last weekend it was the women's volleyball team who graced the Wolf Den for the first time in nearly 2 years. And this weekend, it's the LU basketball program making their mark. Filled with plenty of new faces, both the men's and women's basketball team held their home openers Friday night with the Brock Badgers in town. Lakehead was without star point guard Sophia Luke, who was out battling an illness. And in her place, it was a pair of first-year players stepping up in her absence as Allie Burke led the T-Wolves in scoring with 12 points while adding 6 rebounds and 3 assists. And Quebec native Alexia Giroux displayed her prowess with the long ball, draining 3 triples in this one as the first-year guard finished with 10 points. Unfortunately, despite a strong defensive showing, it was not enough against the 6th-ranked team in the nation, as Brock, led by Ivana Tuasami and Samantha Keltos, pulled away after a close first quarter en route to a 61-44 victory. Despite the loss, head coach John Kreiner was impressed with how his team battled and felt they should be proud of how they kept the Badgers in check.
I was actually pretty proud of our girls of how hard they battled. We kept this team that's averaging almost 80 points a game to 61. I was kind of upset we gave that last 2. I was hoping to keep them in the 50s, but we're just really struggling to score right now. Without Sophia, it makes it even more difficult.
A sentiment that was shared by Burke, who says the team proved they can play with such an elite squad.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about in the change room. We're really proud of each other for staying together, even playing a good team like Brock tonight. Yeah.
Over to the men's game, where the Thunderwolves jumped out to a quick start thanks to the efforts of last weekend's hero Michael Okafor and starting point guard Luau Masambia jumping out to a 24-17 lead after 1. But from that point on, the Badgers would take the momentum as the T-Wolves had no answer for the combination of Cassius Small-Martin and TJ Law, who combined for 49 of Brock's 91 points on the evening, which ultimately would be enough to hold off a late rally by Lakehead to take Game 1 by a final score of 91-85. Despite suffering their second loss of the season, it was an impressive performance for Jared Kreiner, son of the women's coach John Kreiner, who was making his first start for the T-Wolves, as the third-year guard scored 10 points, nailing a trio of triples in the second half. Both the men's and women's teams are back in action tonight at CJ Sanders Fieldhouse. Over at Fort William Gardens, the Lakehead men's hockey team evened up their 3-game set with the Ryerson Rams, taking Game 2 last night by a score of 2-1, as the T-Wolves' Brock Aiken stood on his head, stopping 38 of a possible 39 shots. The two teams wrap up the mini-series at the Gardens tonight, beginning at 7. And in SIJHL action, the Thunder Bay North Stars put an end to their 4-game losing streak Friday night as they defeated the Wisconsin Lumberjacks south of the border 7-4, while the Cam River Fighting Walleye pushed their win streak to 7 as they knocked off the Fort Francis Lakers 4-1. Both the North Stars and the Walleye are back in action tonight. Moving on to the NHL, it was a pretty entertaining night yesterday evening, with the grade 8 Alex Ovechkin passing Brett Hall with his 742nd goal of his illustrious career. And north of the border, the Maple Leafs spoiled a special evening for Flames fans who were celebrating the induction of Jarome Iginla into the Hockey Hall of Fame, as Austin Matthews scored in overtime as Toronto handed Calgary their 3rd straight loss. And tonight, the Leafs are back in action looking for their 8th win in their last 9 games. With it being the second night of a back-to-back, the man entrusted with keeping the Leafs' hot streak alive will be rookie Joseph Woll, who will be making his NHL debut against the Sabres tonight in Buffalo. The Maple Leafs have had their struggles on the road this year with only 2 victories in 5 games, while the Sabres are 5-1-1 in front of their home crowd. Moving on to the Montreal Canadiens, who are coming off a win against the Calgary Flames as well. They're in Motown for a date with the Red Wings. Nick Suzuki, who had the winner on Thursday, enters tonight with 9 points over his last 5 contests, while Detroit comes off 2-0 shutout loss to former Habs prospect Zachary Vucali. On to the action earlier in the NHL, as the Bruins were in New Jersey, already leading 1-0 when everyone's favorite player, Brad Marchand, scores his 7th on the power play to double Boston's lead, but the Devils came back the other way, as former Leaf Andreas Johnsson drops it off to Dawson Mercer, and he pots his 5th of the season, cutting the deficit in half. But just 2 minutes later, it's the King Pest at it again, as Marchand feeds Pasternak, who fires it on net. Marchand bangs in the rebound, as the perfection line, as Bruins fans would like to call them, combined for 6 points in this one, as Boston take it 5-2 the final. Staying on the ice a day after the Canadian men's soccer team had Commonwealth Stadium rocking for World Cup qualifying, it was the nation's women's hockey team's turn to represent Canada in warm-up play ahead of the Winter Olympics. And let's just say, they look like they're set to go for gold. It was all Team Canada in this one, as in just the first minute, Natalie Spooner is sent in all alone. She's not going to make a mistake on this one, sliding it through the wickets to open the scoring. On to the second. Canada leading the Finns by 2 now, and it's more from the Scarborough native, as she's just going to come in and just fire this right past the goalkeeper, short side, for her second of the game. And then just 4 minutes later, the onslaught, it's going to continue. And guess who? It's Spooner again, completing the hat trick just midway through this one. Canada scores 4 in the second, en route to an 8-0 shutout victory against Finland. The two teams wrap up their exhibition series in Helsinki on Sunday. In the CFL, the defending Grey Cup champions from Winnipeg have looked like clear favorites to hold on to their crown as champs this year, as they entered today's matchup with the Alouettes atop the league with 11-1 record. The Bombers elected to rest CFL passing leader Zach Collaros in this one, handing the reins to Sean Maguire making his first pro start, and it doesn't start so well. As Maguire is pressured, he throws it right into the waiting arms of Nagy Murray. Given the Owls' great field position and Trevor Harris, he isn't going to blow that opportunity as he spots Eugene Lewis, who makes the absolutely spectacular catch on the sidelines, keeping the toes in somehow for the touchdown as the Alouettes would take the 7-6 lead. On to the second quarter. The duo, they're going to connect again as Harris eludes the pressure and he just zips it to Lewis again, almost on the same area of the field, just the other side. Quite the chemistry these two are getting so early in Harris's tenure with the Alouettes. Back to Maguire. He had chemistry too in this one, just with the Montreal secondary, as he's picked off by Chris Aki this time, one of the 25-year-olds, 4 interceptions on the day, as the Bombers lose for the first time since late August, as Montreal double them up 28-14. And finally, less than 24 hours after defeating his close friend and countryman Felix Auger-Aliassime in the semifinals of the Stockholm Open, Denis Shapovalov was on center court today looking for his second career ATP title against American Tommy Paul. Shapo also looking for the repeat in Stockholm. The Canadian would trail in the opening set 4-2, but appears to have the winner, but the American coming up out of nowhere for the cross-court winner as Paul cruised to win the first set 6-4. In the second, the Richmond Hill native looking more like himself as he gets Paul on the run, and he's just going to finish him off with a cheeky little drop shot right there. I'm assuming he was saying, try returning this one. Shapovalov takes the second set, forcing a third one 6-2. But unfortunately, the American would prove way too much as Paul's return forces Shapo into an awkward return. It goes into the net. Then with a chance to serve out the match, the 24-year-old gets Shapo in a vulnerable position, and he's just going to fire the winner, claiming his first ever title, 6-4, 2-6, 6-4. Tough break for Shapo, but you know what? He closed out the season pretty good, and I'm expecting some pretty bright things for him in 2022.
Absolutely. I find the Canadians have been struggling in tennis finals lately. I mean, we saw Leilani Fernandez, obviously, just a couple months ago, and now Shapo. It almost feels like we need a Shapo Auger-Aliassime final, just so we can guarantee a Canadian winner. Because I think this has happened a couple of times now where Felix and Denis Shapovalov have sort of been paired where they'll never meet in a final, but they have to meet each other in the semifinal.
No argument for me, Alex. Yeah. Give it to me now.
That's the way it goes sometimes. We'll have your local forecast for you coming up after the break. Welcome back. Well, those temperatures have definitely dropped into those lower single digits coming up this week. Before we get you caught up here, though, we will head out west for tonight's national forecast. And we will kick the evening off in Vancouver. A rainfall warning has been issued for Vancouver residents. Currently, it is 7 degrees. And down south in Toronto, it's mainly cloudy this evening. A chance of rain showers or flurries near midnight, 3 degrees right now. And out east in St. John's, there is rain in the area as well. Fog patches also expected to develop overnight. -1 is the current temperature. And taking a look at tonight in the region, Dryden, cloudy with a slight chance of flurries, -6 currently. In Greenstone, flurries in the area as well, -4. And over in Sault Ste. Marie, flurries or rain showers tonight. Risk of snow squalls overnight as well, currently 0 degrees. And as we look at tomorrow's forecast in Kenora, it's going to be a cloudy one, a slight chance of flurries in the morning. The high is around -2. In Armstrong, cloudy with a chance of flurries as well, with a high of -1. And in Marathon, cloudy, a chance of flurries in the afternoon, with a pretty cool high of -5. And at this hour in Thunder Bay, currently it is 1 degree below freezing. It's mostly cloudy. And as the night rolls on, pretty much same story. It's going to be overcast for the majority of the rest of the evening. No rain showers, though, to be expected, but 4 below.